Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Hello, and welcome to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast, the Sex Edition. Have you wondered why men want to fall asleep after they've had sex? If you don't know the answer, I'm going to share that with you in a moment. One of the frustrations that women have had is that they feel like when a man has had sex, when he finishes, when he has an orgasm, all he wants to do is roll over and fall asleep. And I'm often surprised that people have not thought more about why that is and come to an understanding about it, because it has driven women nuts for years as to why that's the case. Well, there's some biology behind that, and it has to do with when you're in the sexual experience. Obviously, there's chemicals and things that are going off in the body that are making the passion happen. And when a man reaches an orgasm, there are endorphins that are released. That's the pleasure hormone, and it works for both people. Women, they have their pleasure hormones. The endorphins are being released, and that's part of the passion. And when women are finished, women want to snuggle. I think guys hear that. I think they understand that. But oftentimes it seems like they're powerless to control what happens next. Well, let me explain. What happens in a man's body when he orgasms is there is a release of a chemical called prolactin. And what that does to a man is it makes him drowsy. It makes him want to fall asleep. So ladies, that is the reason why. It is not because he is trying to ignore you or make you feel unimportant or anything like that. It is a chemical reaction. It's biological. It's innate in men. And once the prolactin levels have dropped, they come to and they can re-engage. But that's the reason. Now, the question is obvious. Well, some guys don't fall off and want to fall asleep. Well, it's not the same for every single person. But this explains what for some people has been a mystery for a long, long time. And for the guys who happen to be listening to the podcast, I think it's very important information. Now, you can do some research on this for yourself so that you have the information. Now, if you want to not fall asleep, there are things that you can do. I mean, you can amp yourself up with caffeine if that's something that you do. If you drink coffee and it gets you amped up and gets you going, or soda or something like that, yeah, you can probably push through that drowsiness, push through that tendency to fall off and disconnect from your partner. But understand that that comes at a cost. I mean, you've got to sort of artificially hype your system. Now, alcohol does not have the same effect. Remember, alcohol has more of a sedative kind of effect, so that's not something you're going to necessarily want to try. Now, it lowers your inhibitions, so if you're looking to be sexual, then the taking of the alcohol tends to lower your inhibitions, which is more of affecting the judgment part of this. So this is why, if you're engaged in some sexual play, you got to be careful, because then the wisdom seems to go by the wayside. The wisdom such as, if this isn't a particularly familiar partner, then safe sex, obviously, that's where I'm going with that part of the conversation. You're going to take risks when you lower your inhibitions. And it's probably better to do it with someone that you're familiar with. That way you're both safe, and where you can take care of each other, you can look out for each other, and that sort of thing. No jumping off the table or the dresser or swinging from the chandeliers type of thing, because that obviously, it comes with taking risks, but it also comes with the possible chance of having an injury. And then how embarrassing is it when you have to show up in the ER room explaining what sort of happened? Because it could be fairly difficult to get you dressed and bandaged and taking you on over to the ER room and saying, well, what happened? Because they're going to ask. I mean, I'm sure they've seen it all, but they're going to ask, and they've got your name now. So there again, I've explained why men tend to fall asleep when they've had an orgasm. Again, the chemical prolactin. You can look that up, prolactin. That's it. Hey guys, here's another reason why you want to live a healthy life, to stay healthy, because think about it. Women outlive men. So that if you're a guy and you take care of your health, think about it, you'll be one of those guys that has more available to you later on. If you're going to be single or if you're a committed bachelor, either way, as you get older, there will be more potential dates, more potential partners out there for you. So that's another reason why you want to take care of your health. And think about it this way. Older ladies, you know what? There are plenty of young men out there that would love to take you on, that want to treat you right. I'm not just talking about a one-night kind of thing, but there are lots of eligible young men out there that would love to date an older woman. And because they have the understanding that the sex is hot, older women tend to be more confident. They tend to understand what they want. And because they're available, they make the choices for their lives. They have decided that they feel okay, comfortable with being with a younger man. Now, it's all relative. So if you're 50-something and you're dating a guy who's in his late 30s or in his 40s, or you're maybe younger than that, they're okay with it. And if you're a younger guy who is dating an older woman, remember to appreciate her, and she'll be very loyal to you, because we've all been through experiences. And I think one of the things that we're looking for in our life is someone who's compatible, somebody who wants to be connected with us emotionally. But when it comes to the sex part, when it comes to being hot, you get the emotion part going, I'll tell you the sex part will follow. So there it is. Look, younger guys, date an older woman, get the experience, enjoy the comfort, enjoy the nurturing. And guys, if you're a little bit older and you're single, or if you're a committed bachelor, know that if you take care of yourself as you progress later on in years, there will be more and more women available for you. And they also decide for themselves that they actually are willing to be open and available for a relationship. And there's lots of variables in that. What I found very interesting is the European concept of older women, younger men. It's been around for ages and ages and ages. As we become more observant of that particular style of coupling, and say as a Western style, I'm talking about the United States, Canada, that sort of thing, it's becoming more and more accepted. And it's been progressing that way. It's progressing that way for a long time, because we are well aware of the statistic that women live longer than men, and women are deciding that they don't necessarily want to be by themselves. You see, the life expectancy is so much longer than it used to be. So that makes people available for relationships. And what's part of a relationship? Sex. And women are having sex well into their 80s and later. There are a number of women who later, and they take care of themselves. They're out doing spin classes, taking dance, exercising, walking, and going on serious hikes, this sort of thing. You'd be amazed. And I'm saying, guys, open your eyes, because they're out there and they're available. They want to be. So if you're looking for a change, if you're looking for an opportunity to connect with someone, and someone who wants to be connected on all levels, emotionally, spiritually, physically, then consider somebody of a different age range. Think outside of the box. And also consider someone of a different ethnicity, because culturally, there's a lot that can be gained from that. You don't know until you try it. So I'm going to take a break, and I'll come right back after the commercial.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And we're back. Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast, the Sex Edition. I am John Johnson, your host. Passing on a bit of information for you young men who might be listening, or you moms who could be listening, or you sisters who could be listening, or the dads. Any of you, if you haven't spoken to your young men about sexual health, speak to them. So here's what I'm sharing. Pediatricians know about this. The HPV, human papillomavirus. They give young men shots to help prevent them from getting the herpes, the outbreaks related to that. Yes, you can get a shot for that, and it'll help protect them. Most people get herpes, and it's somewhere in their system, and it's dormant. About 80% of the population actually has the virus. I mean, it stays dormant for many people. That's why they don't know they have it. But for those that have outbreaks, because in somewhere in their history, they became exposed to it, and it's something that embeds itself in the nerves. And whenever there's an eruption, something that oftentimes for some people it's stress, then it surfaces, and you have the outbreaks on your body. Well, the inoculation itself helps prevent that. Talk to your pediatrician for the young men, because if you don't have the inoculation, then you are subject to getting HPV. And once you get it, then you have it. You're not going to rid yourself of it. It is not something your body is necessarily going to be able to do anything with other than be in reaction to it. Okay? So there is something, do a little more research, but talk to the pediatricians and this is for the young men, because this isn't something that has always been around for young men. They've been giving girls the inoculation for HPV, but now they're doing it for boys as well. So make that part of something that you're going to do. It's good for your sexual health. It's good for your health in general, and it's good to be informed. One of the things that I want to share with you, too, is when people are being sexual, we have our concepts of what we think sex should look like. And, put it this way. We expect it to be pleasurable. Yeah, that's great. While you're being intimate with your partner, there is this sort of nicetous thingy when you're being sexual. You want to have an orgasm at the same time. And I could just share with you that, sex therapists will tell you this. Surrogates will tell you having an orgasm at the same time can be a challenge. Some couples do it very easily. They're very connected. But at other times, it's just not something one should expect to happen each and every time you're intimate. And because of that, and the reason I'm sharing that is because some people, some couples, some individuals in those pairings tend to feel like there is a letdown when they don't have an orgasm the same time that their partner does. So here's an experience Women, you probably have experienced this where your partner, your male partner, tends to have an orgasm a lot sooner than you do. And it sort of creates this vicious circle. You feel like you have to hurry up and have an orgasm before your male partner finishes. And if he's somebody who tends to finish fairly quickly, then the frustration for the woman in this particular case is that she didn't experience that herself. And therefore, if that happens repeatedly, she's going to pretty much feel like, okay, what's the point of doing this? So I'm sharing this with the idea that the guys that you're listening, and that if you're cheating your partner out of having that experience, then you need to learn something about how to delay your ejaculation, or at least know how to pleasure your partner so that she does not get the idea that you're only in it for yourself and that she will never achieve the bliss. So you got to learn how to work that. You got to understand how her body is wired to work. Ask her. Women can communicate. I mean, it might be a bit odd because guys aren't used to asking women what it takes to get them off. Most guys pretend like they know it all, and unfortunately, guys don't. Now, some are experienced enough to be able to have that conversation or at least know what to do, and that's great. But if you're a guy that doesn't, I would say this: man up and either do some research, because you'd be surprised at how many people don't even make the attempt. Do some research for your partner, and I'm not talking about necessarily watching porn movies, because that's theater. I mean, it's not that you can't get ideas, but I'm talking about being more realistic. I mean, doing some real reading, and there's lots of books out there. You can look on Amazon, you can go to the library, you can look online, and there's so much information there on sexuality, sexual health, and I'm talking about things that will educate you, not something that is just there like a picture book, but something that has some words that teaches you something about how the body is wired so that you become informed. And you know what? You can actually make a very interesting topic of conversation when you know this stuff. You can impress your partner with that. So I'm saying, guys, take that on. Make that as important as those car magazines and, how to rebuild something, because you want your woman to be happy, then make her happy. And I'm going to share this with women. Women, there is a lot to learn about how men are wired, because quite often the perception is that men are selfish. Some guys are, okay, but that's the population in general. There are women that are selfish too, that are unforgiving, that don't have a lot of understanding about how men are wired. So when something happens, they don't know how to have a conversation about it. That is something unpleasant. When something unpleasant happens, they don't know how to have a conversation about it. And you need to be able to talk from facts, not from stuff that you've heard in the street, because quite often people get it so wrong and it's just all twisted up. But you need to learn. A human sexuality class, and they give these at colleges. You can probably do stuff like this online. You can learn something about your body. There's books out there. That would go a long way to educating you so that when you come to these kind of things, make it interesting, make it fun, make something out of this so that if you're going to spend your time studying it, that something will come of it. I mean, you have sex anyway, but it's like anything else. The more you know, the more informed you are, the better it could be. So remember, take that with you. That's a great thought. For the young people that are listening, the more informed you are, the better you will be. Because what happens is when people hear things on the street, and I just mean topic of conversation, things in passing, so much gets lost in the translation. Because I think the honest truth is I think people are trying to be informed, but quite often we are titillated with sound bites and statistics and things that aren't realistic, and we tend to carry those things around as if they're facts. For example, the idea that men are not interested in pleasing their partner, they're only interested in getting off and going about their own way. I think that is a concept that it's easy to throw out there because there are so many stereotypes about what sex is and what sex isn't. And when we always key into some of that negative stuff, it seems like it's pervasive. And I'm saying you can change that for yourself. Maybe not for somebody else, But the better informed you are, the better lover you're going to be. And I say, share that with your partner and get them interested too. And you may be able to teach them a thing or two. I'm going to take a break, and I'll be right back after this.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Hi there, and welcome back to Golden State Media Concepts Relationships Podcast, the Sex Edition. Here's something I want to encourage you to do. If you have any concerns about your physical sexual health, that is, if you have a spot somewhere or a weird cramp or something that's sort of discoloration, something, look, see your doctor. See your public health doctor. If you're on a college campus, there may be a nurse there. Go get it checked out, because there's nothing worse than having a bunch of anxiety about something. Sometimes it's very simple, but let me tell you about problems when it comes to your health. If you ignore them, these things only get worse. It's not something that's necessarily going to go away. And better, if you know something about it, then you know what to do. It can be treated. But if you let these things linger on, and let's say I'm going to go to the direction, let's say it is a venereal disease, and it's left untreated, there are going to be a lot of complications with something like this, because venereal diseases can be very traumatic. Some of them can be disfiguring. They can leave scars. But just as importantly, it could affect a lot of things, and it's not about embarrassment here. It is really about being a health crisis for you as an individual. And imagine how awful you would feel if you had some sort of medical condition, and if you were having unprotected sex or something of the sort, and you get your partner sick or infect your partner. You're going to have to answer for that. And there isn't anything that's worse than getting somebody else sick because either you were too lazy to do the right thing, or you felt that you were too scared to deal with it. And deal with it. You can do these things in private. Your information, whatever's going on with you, is personal between you and a doctor. So if you feel like, well, I don't want to tell anyone because I'm afraid of being humiliated, that's private, confidential information. Get yourself to a doctor. Get yourself to a nurse. If you're on a college campus, there's one available. There's public health clinics. They are out there, and they are there because they're there wanting to help you. So don't resist that. And like I said, it's private, it's confidential. Get it checked out. Be brave for yourself. And then in tune, if you find out it's nothing, then you're better for knowing rather than having a lot of anxiety around it. But if you suspect something is going on, don't ignore the symptoms. Please do not ignore the symptoms, because generally these things exacerbate themselves. There are a lot of things that you can catch sexually that tend to, how do I want to say this? They show themselves to be evident, and then sometimes they seem to disappear, but yet you are still infected, and you will get your partner infected. That's the way some of these things are. So better that you take note and deal with these, and it'll be less of a monster to deal with later on. Okay? So that's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be preachy about it. I'm really trying to get you to to listen to some wisdom about how these things work. Some people worry about their reputation if someone finds out. What I can tell you about life is this. These things will pass. If you are worried about people discovering the facts, if they find out, it's like, so what? You know what? You can live that down. But if you infect someone because of your bad decisions or poor decision making, then that will be much harder to live down. So I'm going to pivot from that, and I'm going to talk something about personal hygiene. And, before you kind of get into the act, before you get busy, clean up, wash up, because it's important. Just let me start there. Start clean, start fresh. Remember, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing it for your partner. And find out, this is another opportunity to learn something about your partner, whether you like your intimate parts to be shaved, or you like them to be trimmed, or you like them to be all natural. Find that out, but keep it clean and keep it fresh, because it definitely helps with the romance. Something else to consider is when you're talking about lubricants. Say you're getting into the moment, and there's lots of different things that people can use. You can go to the stores, you can buy the silicone-based lubricants, you can buy water-based lubricants, and you can read the instructions, read the packages on there. But you know what? Some people don't want to use the chemicals. Some people like something that's more natural. I don't know if you've tried olive oil. Olive oil is great. See, your skin is the largest organ on your body. It's a membrane that it covers everything. And anything you put on your skin, your body absorbs, your body has to filter. And some of the chemicals that are created for sex play, well, it's something that somebody's created. And I'm not saying that these things are dangerous, but some people who tend to like things that are more organic. Have you thought of olive oil? Olive oil it works. And you know what? It works great for massages. See, the thing about massage oil, which is, and I'm going to make a distinction here between that and, say, lotion. See, lotions tend to rub into the skin and then it sort of disappears. See, massage oils tend to be something that can stay on the surface of the skin and allow your hands or whatever you're using to manipulate the muscles, but it allows it to slide across the skin without chafing it, you see. And that's where olive oil is actually a pretty good natural alternative. I haven't met anyone that's allergic to olives. I mean, obviously, if you are, then this is not the option for you, but consider it. Now, think about it. Some olive oils have different flavors, different scents, so choose wisely. If one of them tends to be a little more pungent than the other, then that might not be the one to try. Try something that's a little more mild, a little more neutral. But you know what? It really works good for something to put on the skin so you can do massages. And when it soaks in, again, I mean, how can olive oil be bad for you? And, they tell you to cook with it, and it's supposed to be good for your arteries and things like that. So, I would try olive oil as a substitute and, use it often. Therefore, try it on both of you, yourself, your partner, and it might be a good alternative. And if it's already there in the kitchen, then you don't have to run out and buy something. So you don't have to feel like, oh, geez, you know what? We're out of lubricant. We got to get something else. And because it is natural, I don't know that it would actually clash with latex condoms. I don't know the research on that, so I'm not telling you a yay or nay. But considering that you have to be careful whether you're using certain lubricants with certain contraceptive types, for the male. As far as the olive oil, I'm not sure what the story is on that. But what I do know that it works great as a lubricant. It's great as something in terms of a massage. And like I say, it's good for your skin. If you can eat it, you should be able to put it on your skin without any problem. And the one other thing that I know about olive oil is that it tends to wash off really well. So if you want to wash it off, soap and water, it goes away really easy. And it'll wash out of your clothes, and it should wash out of your laundry. Again, fairly easy. So that's an idea. I'm John Johnson, and this is the Golden State Media Concepts of Relationships podcast, the Sex Edition. Thank you for listening.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.